Hey everybody, this is Russ Matthews from The Watch List and Real Dialogue. I am thrilled to be here today to be interviewing Andy Erwin. Andy Erwin is a part of the film directing team of the Erwin Brothers. He and John have actually brought us films like I Can Only Imagine and I Still Believe. And then also Andy directed a film called American Underdog, which is a great film. But on top of it, they do have a production company called the Kingdom Story Company. And they actually have a great new film called Ordinary Angels. Ordinary Angels is hitting Australia this coming week, and I think it's worthwhile you getting out to see. I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Andy, and we'll tell you more about how you're able to get more details about the film and actually get out to see it in cinemas. Hey, Andy, I am so thrilled just to kind of get started right off the bat with you because I really you have a fascinating career. And when I kind of look through, because I Can Only Imagine, also I Still Believe, An American Underdog, and as well as this great new film called Ordinary Angels, which I have seen and thoroughly enjoyed. But was your plan when you guys kind of got started, especially with Kingdom Story Company, to do real stories, true to life stories? Because it seems like your company's kind of being defined by that in so many ways, as well as being some great faith-based stories.
Yeah, Russ, I think we just you try different hats on as a filmmaker, and all of a sudden try one on that like it totally fits. You're like, this is what we
Right.
do. And so our background was documentary filmmaking and along with music videos and sports. And so when we did our first true story, there was a little movie called Woodlawn.
Yeah.
And that was our kind of our first attempt at it. And it was one that both the critics and the audience liked, and it was our first A+ cinema score here in the States. And it was like, oh, these are the kind of stories, because we wanted to do stories of faith and substance, things that really showed what we believe, but we wanted to kind of get away from anything that felt cheesy. And the audience really responded to somebody's real life experience. So we went once more around the block, found this little story called I Can Only Imagine, and that was the one we really invested in. And then that was our breakout hit. And we're
Sure.
like, these are the stories we tell. And the thing that we felt like it was our resonant kind of destination for each of these true stories is what we call a rush of hope. People need hope, and we just wanted
Right.
stories that clearly delivered that. And when you have an underdog story or a redemption story of somebody that really needs a win, and the audience sees them win, they kind of feel like they win with them, and they walk out of the doors of the theater wanting to go make a difference.
Right. Oh, great. Thank you for that. Because it just kind of helped me kind of look at it. Because it definitely, you can see it's been an earmark of your films. And I think it's been a great one. And you've really been able to tap into some great stories, including Ordinary Angels. I was kind of curious about Ordinary Angels. What was it about your production company that really just kind of gravitated towards this story? I think I know, but I think the audience would love to know. What is it about Ordinary Angels that really resonated with you?
It was one that caught us off guard. It came to us through a musician
Oh,
named Dave Matthews of the Dave Matthews Band. Like,
really?
I don't know but anyway, he saw this story when it happened in Louisville, Kentucky back in the 90s, and just always held on to it that this needed to be a movie. And so it made its way through a bunch of different people to Lionsgate, our parent company, and they brought it to us and said, you need to see this story. When we saw it,
Right.
we were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this hasn't been told. But it was just a vehicle for a story where the church got to be the hero at the end of the story. This
Sure.
unlikely person in this community that ends up falling in love with this little girl's story that needed a liver transplant. And Hilary Swank plays the character of Sharon. This woman was a force of nature, wouldn't take no for an answer, and just fought tooth and nail for people to find out how to help this little girl. And then
Yeah.
in the midst of the biggest blizzard snowstorm in the history of Kentucky, they fight as a community to get her airlifted to go get a liver transplant. And in this story, the church gets to be the hero at the end of the story. And in the day and age when so many people of faith in movies are the butt of the joke, we get to make him the hero at the end. And so it was
Right.
one that and we have Alan Ritchson from the Reacher series plays the father in the story, and Alan and Hilary just took it to another level.
They did. I think that's actually one of the things that really helped to define it and differentiate it and lift it was Alan and also Hillary. Come on, a double Academy Award winner. It's
Yeah,
incredible
exactly.
that you're
Yeah,
able to get her. She's just phenomenal. I mean, the story itself, I think, spoke for itself, but then to have this talent, as well as Nancy Travis, I mean, just as a
yeah.
great one to be able to kind of be able to lift it up along those lines. Kind of curious about that, especially it is kind of define your side of kind of the faith-based films is the fact that you're able to get some really great talent. I mean, I'd love to know what it's like kind of working with them, but then also how you're able to kind of source them and get them into and kind of believing in these stories themselves.
Well, I mean, really, the story is king. You have to have the story that attracts the right actor and just something that
Right.
resonates with that actor. But I think the thing that's encouraging with kind of faith stories is it had a stigma to it 5 years ago, even where it was really hard to get big name actors in the project. But in the past few years, for whatever reason, that fear of doing stories about faith has really kind of fallen away in a lot of ways. That might be just the track record and the success of films in this genre, or the audience really supporting it, or whatever. But more and more, like, big names are coming along. So when we did Jesus Revolution last year, to have
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer and that cast anchoring that cast was fantastic. And then it makes an impact on these actors, like having Kelsey talk about how it spiritually changed him playing this character was amazing. So in this story, Alan Ritchson from the Reacher series, who's had an amazing breakout year.
Yes,
Um,
man. He's great.
I mean, he's a good dude, and he's a believer and a person of faith himself. Uh, he had attached to the script, wanted to do it. We're excited, but we needed someone to be his dance partner in Sharon, and we had tried on a bunch of different people. And 2 weeks before we started filming, the script landed on Hilary Swank's desk, and
Wow.
she just said we like Lionsgate didn't even want us to offer it to her, because they're like, there
Oh,
is no way you're going to get Hilary Swank. Like, you have no chance, guys.
right.
And we're like, what do we have to lose? Let's try. So we sent it to her.
Sure.
It landed on her desk, and she became so passionate about it, because it connected with her father's story. Is he was a lung
Oh.
transplant survivor, and she just was so passionate about it. She was like, I don't care if we get the deal done or not. I'm showing up in Canada to film this thing, and showed up on set, and like, just like Sharon in the movie, she didn't take no for an answer. She's fantastic.
She is. I mean, well, the whole cast, I mean, the whole thing comes together. The children, everybody about it just is
Yeah.
phenomenal. I think that it will really resonate with audiences. It's kind of, but one of the things you kind of brought up, and I think was worthwhile kind of digging into a little bit, is that faith has always been playing a very important role in all of your films. How do you keep the balance? Because it is, you have kind of a unique take and a unique spin opposed to what we've seen in cinema, especially within the genre over the years. I'd love to know how
Yeah.
you kind of find that balance between faith and story and how they can kind of come together.
I think we try to find, what does each story want to be, and the things that attract us to the stories are the things that really at the core of what we believe. So we are really, we redemption stories is really kind of stories that really kind of pull us in and they move us
Right.
emotionally. Stories of faith, people of faith, that struggle to kind of figure out how to live out what you believe in a really broken world. So those are the things that we're attracted to. But what we try to do is find stories that also have a universal overlay, where we're able to find things that draw an audience in that may not be, a church going person, that
Right.
they may not understand it, but there's something they can relate to. So you look at like a movie like I Can Only Imagine. It was a story of faith. It was about the best selling Christian song of all time, and the artist that wrote it. So it's obviously, the themes are strong, but the part that is the universal overlay is it was a story about the father wound, and it's a father son story,
So
and
you're
that
so
father
true.
son story is something that's universally relatable. So that draws in an audience outside of it, and that leaves them a moment to engage with faith in a way that maybe they would typically not. And so we look for a story that has an outward focus towards an audience that does really clearly define what we believe, but in a way that's relatable. And so when we tell a movie like American Underdog, we try to go out and just tell a really great sports story, but
Yeah.
it is about a Christian, and so we don't blink at that. We don't apologize for it. So it's been cool to kind of have a rebellious chip on our shoulder and be like, you can't categorize us. We just tell stories that leave people with hope and call us what you want. But
Right.
we're Christians that tell good stories.
That's right. I love the idea that you're rebellious being a Christian. I
No, well, no,
love that
it
whole
like
idea. I love it.
it's what now it is. It's like, the most counterculture thing you can do right now is to tell stories of hope.
That's
And,
right.
whereas we might have been, considered, preaching to the choir 15 years ago, Well, we're in an empty building and there is no choir. And so we become
Right.
the rebels that are now holding up something we believe, and we're rebellious. And I like being the
There you
rebel.
go.
So it's cool.
I love that. That's very cool. So hey, I've got two more big questions for you. Just kind of hopefully we get through this in this time because one of the things I love about your company and what you guys do, both you and John, what you've been able to do over the years is that you kind of represent says excellence, authenticity, hard work, and vision, kind of what you have. But you've actually taken a producer's role and then allowed somebody, John Dunn, which is a very accomplished director of The Case for Christ and all that,
Yeah.
being in the seat. But how do
Fantastic.
you maintain that? Those things that you're talking about as far as excellence and authenticity, but also what your voice, because you have a unique voice within your company. How do you
Mhm.
maintain that? And how do you give that over to somebody like John and say, hey, this is what we want. This is what we want to see. And I'd love to
Yeah.
hear how you guys maintain that.
When we started Kingdom Story Company, it was with this idea that we wanted to figure out what we could, try to accomplish together that none of us could do individually. And so we went out recruiting early on of who are the defined voices in the space and how do we work together. And
Right.
early on, the heavy lifting had to be done by, my brother and I, making the movies. But the goal was to get to a point where we were able to hand the baton off to other filmmakers and facilitate their vision and their story. So we studied other companies that had done that well. In the early days of Pixar, there's a brilliant book called Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull that talks about the secret sauce to Pixar. And there was just a creative brain trust where they all spoke into each other's stories.
Right.
And so, all of these filmmakers that are releasing movies with us this year, you can see their fingerprints all over our
Mm.
films because they've been a part of it. From, John Gunn writes a lot of the stuff that we do, including Jesus Revolution and American Underdog. But this was his story to tell, and he just absolutely crushed it. So then we kind of slide over to producing and facilitate their voice, but it's there should be a seamless handoff where the audience won't miss a beat. So the fact that right now with the critics, Ordinary Angels is the highest rated thing we've ever done, and
Oh,
it's a
wow.
99% with the audience as well. And that just speaks to the fact of John Gunn's an incredibly skilled filmmaker that we get to support. So I get more satisfaction out of being able to cheer for a product that's great that we got to launch somebody else telling that story. And there's more things coming along soon. So like our next movie is called Unsung Hero. It comes out
Oh, yeah.
soon. That is an Australian story
Yes, it
of the band
is.
for King and Country about their journey from Australia to chasing their dreams of music and their struggle as a family to stay together. And it's directed by an Australian,
It
Joel
is.
Smallbone,
Oh,
who both
yeah.
directs and plays his father, and is a phenomenal movie. So there's more to come that I think your audience would be really interested in.
Yeah, well, and that's what I probably could want to finish off with. I think it'd be a great way because we are looking forward to Unsung Hero coming here to Australia. But then, but if as far as for an Australian audience, this is in Louisville,
Yeah.
Kentucky,
Yep.
story. How does that? How is that going to connect with an audience halfway around the world? I mean, what do you think it is about this story of Ordinary Angels, which is a great story, but how would it resonate with somebody who probably has never experienced Louisville themselves?
Yeah, I know you guys get a lot of snow down there, but you know, for this one, it is that universal overlay um, where the idea of that's relatable is the struggle. If this is
Right.
a father that has been dealt a really bad hand, and no matter, he's lost his wife to this mysterious illness, and then finds out his daughter, his little 5-year-old daughter, has the same illness. He's underwater with, he can't pay his bills. He can't keep his family above it all. And then in the midst of that, he's looking to lose his house, and then his daughter, he can't save her life. And so I think that struggle as a parent to how do I fight for my children, and how do I deal with life when life just seems unfair? And
Right.
I think that is relatable no matter what country you're from or what your culture is. That's a universal overlay. And then in this story, the hope that they found, I think, preaches anywhere. And
Yeah, it does.
so it's I think people that are needing a breath of fresh air, needing something to believe in, will find it in Spades and Ordinary Angels.
All right, man. Cool. That's it, man. I really appreciate your time, Andy. It is just an honor to get to meet you and to get to chat with you, especially about Ordinary Angels, but also about your career. Know we're praying for you. We're excited about the movie hitting Australia, but also for the future projects and also for your company. So thanks so much for your time and have a great one. Thanks, mate.
I appreciate you, Russ.
Well, thank you so much, Andy, for that great time talking about Ordinary Angels, the new movie that's going to be coming out this coming week on the 14th of March. And so it's definitely worthwhile getting out to see. If you want to find out which cinemas to go to, all you have to do is go to faithmedia.com.au. That's faithmedia.com.au. Or also make sure you check out all of the details at Real Dialogue at rwedialogue.com and at the watch list at Hope 103.2. So thanks so much for coming along for the ride. Thanks again to Andy Erwin, and I hope you enjoy Ordinary Angels.